Hello, hey guys. Hey, my name is Kate. I'm the creative director and a travel advisor at There and Back Club. And today we're going to chat about the history of travel advising and kind of the era that we're in of travel agencies. And why does that matter? Is a great question. And I think it's important for a couple of reasons. One, the history is fascinating because the history of travel tells the history of an intersection of leisure and business, which at every point of the economy tells an incredible story about who has access to luxury and what does luxury mean, which is something that we pay attention to a lot at There and Back Club because we're in the business of defining luxury as something that's personal and accessible to everyone who wants to access it. And right now, in this era, I think it's incredibly important and actually an act of resistance to push back on the idea that luxury is something that is exclusive to a few. Untold wealth might be the province of a few, and I would love to change that as well. But for right now, what we can control is redefining the idea of luxury travel is travel that serves you and makes you feel luxurious. And that's something that I believe everybody can and should have access to. So walk back with me until, I was gonna say 50 years, but almost 100 years when leisure travel and business travel were literally taking off for the first time. And then in the 1950s, commercial airplanes started to become something that was accessible to Americans. And the way you got on an airplane and planned a trip was with a travel agent. Now, travel agents existed because there was no internet, obviously. There was no way to just book a flight without having a direct relationship with the airline. And that era of travel from 1950 through the 70s, we all know what happened to the airline industry at that point. But even up until the 1990s, the relationship between travel agent, airlines, and hotels was really about what kind of travel are you doing, what kind of perks do you want, and what kind of access can I get you? Because airlines and hotels offered special discounts, special relationships for certain types of travel. And by building a relationship with a travel agent, you could access those discounts and those perks. Enter the deregulation of the airline industry, enter the kickoff of the internet. Those two things massively shifted the travel landscape. So up until the 1990s, did you know that 70% of leisure travel in the United States was still booked through a travel agent? Which is wild. Because I know for one, growing up, travel agents was something that I definitely thought were a relic of the past, or in that fantastic movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where she had the little Cordy thing and went, woo! Great scene, great movie. But even now when you hear about it, you think about, okay, that's for like luxury cruises and or people who also have personal assistants or butlers. And that's because around about 1997, 98, 99, as the dot-com boom was taking off, we entered, instead of this era of one-on-one relationships, we entered the era of travel aggregation. And that's not exclusive to the travel industry, which again is why I think travel is such an interesting line of business to pay attention to because of how it tells the story of regulation in our economy. And the internet absolutely changed the game. Deregulation changed the game. What happened is instead of it being these one-on-one relationships, a couple of smart companies jumped on earlier and said, we have now shifted the landscape from it needing to be a one-to-one to a one-to-many. So Expedia was one of the first ones who jumped on this and realized they could use technology to pull hotel rates from across the globe and create instant competition amongst hotels and figure out how to give people the best deal, the cheapest hotel, quickly. And then relationships went out the window, right? The next big player that really shifted the landscape was TripAdvisor that launched in 2000. Now, whose taste mattered? Is it the travel advisor who knows you personally and can curate exactly the kind of hotel you want? Not as much. We were entering this aggregation era where reviews suddenly mattered so much more than the relationships that businesses had or that agencies had with properties. Now we can still go online, and this is not to, I want to be very clear, I'm not knocking anything about this. TripAdvisor is still something that we use in our business to this day, but I'll get into a little bit later about how curation starts to play a much bigger role in the travel era we're in. But TripAdvisor then again started really shifting the game from, instead of building individual relationships, we have to build global relationships. We have to assume that everybody is watching, and that at any point, someone can come, check out what's happening, leave a review, and everyone's opinion matters. And there's a fantastic democracy to that, right? But what's happened is, as this era of aggregation went on, as the internet decided to stick around and become the global way of life, we got this glut. We got this glut of opinions, and the lowest common denominator, as anybody who has been on a Facebook neighborhood group can tell you, rose to the top. So instead of it being, it's not really possible anymore, if you are interested in a boutique travel experience, to go pull out the reviews that really tell you the story of what kind of trip you want to have. You might see the general aggregate reviews, and we can go deeper into how those can be useful in planning a trip. But what's happened is we have this glut of opinions, this glut of options, and you can see the cheapest and you can see the most popular deals, but that is almost never going to give you the best value for your money, right? If you want to have a trip that actually speaks to the uniqueness of your needs, of the experience that you want, we're starting to shift into a very different era. Obviously, AI is playing a large role in this as well, but in our opinion, AI is still very much stuck in this era of aggregation. It's just pulling from what exists on the internet, and we have yet to see the internet be able to deliver the kind of results that travel agents once were. And that's why we're entering into what I call the era of curation. And again, this is not something that I've coined personally. This is showing up across different industries as AI and internet is on the rise. As AI is on the rise and internet has a stronghold. What's becoming important now again is, can we discern taste? Can we discern what actually matters? Can we discern not what's cheapest? AI can absolutely do that. Expedia, Hotels.com, Kayak, we have a glut of tools that can tell us what's cheapest. But what we don't have is what can tell us the best value for what experiences we want to have. And so I think we're going to see a huge resurgence in businesses similar to travel agencies that are dedicated to, how do we pull out from all of these options where we're overwhelmed with options and choice? How do we pull out what actually is beneficial from TripAdvisor, from Google, from Kayak? And that goes back to circularly building relationships. Now, we're in this beautiful hybrid era where we've got access to the full internet, and we're part of a fabulous agency called Fora that has built the relationships with hotels for us. And we've got, of course, tons of options for booking deals because we book through our own agency. We are able to book directly with hotels. We're able to book with credit card portals and online travel agencies as well, like Booking.com, like Expedia, because we're here. Our role as travel advisors is to get to know and build a relationship with our clients, because the number one thing that we do is figure that equation out. What's the best value of the trip for you? PTO is limited, our budgets are limited, but booking the cheapest hotel or the cheapest flight, as I'm sure all of us can relate to, is not always going to give you the best experience. You might end up spending money, not to throw anyone under the bus or the jet engine here, but I definitely have spent way more money on a Spirit airline ticket than I would have if I had just booked the next better flight because it got canceled and I had to buy a hotel or food at the airport or, 6 glasses of wine to preserve my sanity while I waited for the next Spirit plane to get there and not have mechanical issues. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see how these businesses start building and advertising what curation means. But I feel really excited in being a part of this global effort to pull out and get to know exactly who our clients are and start to build the itineraries and the experiences that serve them. And we're really proud at There and Back Club of specializing in boutique hotels, boutique experiences that we've been traveling for many, many years. And have gotten to know what are the signs of a hotel that really tells us it's worth your money, or what are the signs of a hotel where there's maybe some window dressing, but you're not going to get the full value here. And that's a huge benefit of working with us is we'll be really honest and authentic about, regardless of commission, but we'll be really honest and authentic about where we think you can spend your money to have the most amazing trip.